Incredible greetings. Today I want to share with you about the close interval. Why you should care and what it is. You know that when you make an item using the close deletion on a topic, it creates the item and it sets one first interval. How is this interval calculated? And why you should care? Because I think in some of my videos, I would say it could be almost misleading. And I will explain why. So basically, I will use the same article as an example. I will make closes so we can check what we see in real time. Okay, so first, let me set the priority extremely high. Just for the sake of the example, will be the first position, the highest priority. So basically, you may be familiar with the optimal interval, right? And in my case, it is capped at maximum. By design, 33 days. But this is used if I introduce items from the pending queue. Yes, they will also be affected by the priority, but not so much. Or if I create items right away, as straight in the knowledge tree. But if I make close deletions, that's not going to be used. And what's going to be used? Close interval. And it is what it is. Close interval is the first interval used by close deletions. I make an extract. Now, just for the sake of example, I will perform a close deletion. Nice. And let's see what happened. So the interval, it's just a day. Take note of that. Highest priority, just one day. Gotcha. Why close deletion doesn't use the optimum interval? There's a reason for that. And is because they will cause an inter-item interference. That is, for instance, in Anki, why there is the burying function. So you avoid this, but it's just on day basis, so it's not a good solution, but it's still something, right? And here we have the graph, right? So basically, you have the highest possible interval, and as you can see, this is linear. It grows in a linear fashion, and it's capped at 40 days, which I think it's the best. It's exactly the same thing as the optimum interval. It's capped at 33 days, but if you have the lowest priority, which priority it's the x-axis, you can get up to 40 days. Again, capped by design. And that is the minimum, what you see in red, which grows algorithmically, not linearly. And it starts with one day. You know that in Supermemo, the minimum interval is a day. You cannot have intervals within the same day, unlike Anki. And the maximum is about 12. I mean, the highest minimum interval, it's 12 days, which is quite high, you may assume. So then, what Supermemo does, it chooses one number within range. So if it's the lowest priority, it will choose from 12 to 40 at random. So basically, the priority, it's just telling Supermemo the range you want. I used the other extreme. I used a priority of 0%. That means that could be just one day or one day only. If I set it to 10 or 5, I could have 2 days, 3 days, and so on. You get the point, right? So the lowest the priority, the larger the interval of randomness. And that's why you want a high level, high degree of randomness. Because you want to avoid the inter-item interference. You will have to do a lot of close deletions within the same topic to have this anyways. If it's low priority, but it could happen. But anyhow, it is minimized. Now, let's actually check that out. So here I had one day interval, and I make the close deletion from this element. So now, let's actually, for the sake of the example, priority, I will set it manually to the maximum. Sorry, minimum. 100% is the minimum. Okay, and I will make the close deletion of the same thing. Sorry, I clicked. I will make the close deletion exactly the same, close interval. And let's see what happens. 11 days. So it's not 12, in this case has been 11th. I guess it's between there. Between 11 and 12. So, in this very same example, with the lowest priority, I had almost the minimum interval, but this is just random. I could have had up to 40. And that's really almost an outlier. It's such a bad example. So let's do it again. As you will see my knowledge tree, here is the first one we did, just a day. So now what I will do is let me do that in bulk. 1, 2, and 3. Nice. So let's see that. 12 days, 12, and 12. Huh. So basically, the first one was 12, and everything else was just 12. Keep also in mind that it's inheriting the priority, but the original. What happened here? If you remember in this video, I will have not cut this on the editing. When I set the priority to 100%, when I make a close deletion, it changes the priority. Let's do that again. I set it to the minimum. I will make the close, voila, 90% in that case. So as I did consecutive closes, I'm not using the same priority as from the source. Therefore, the priority that it will be inherited is different, right? So the more closes I do within the same topic, the higher the priority I will have. Remember, 100% is the minimum. So the more I do, the more will increase. And well, just is one repetition. If I did this incrementally, I will know how the priority has been changed. Even it has not been manual. It's just because of what I did that consequently slightly changes the priority. Now let's look at the last thing we did. Nice. So in that case, since I reset the priority to 100% again, now I have 18. And this could be 30 up to 40. Let's go back to the topic. So in conclusion, should you care about the close interval? Yes. Not just because, oh yeah, some degree of randomness you will have on the first interval, right? How this differs from the forgetting, the optimum interval. The optimum interval will always be the same, with some degree of fuzziness because of the priority. But in the close deletion, the close interval, it will be 100% determined by the priority. In other words, no performance data of my collection, no repetition history of my collection will affect that. Only the priority of the topic will affect. So therefore, we could say that my performance doesn't play a role, but with some stretch, we could say yes, it does, because it plays a role how well the user is prioritizing. If I prioritize the items, the elements, more or less the same as what I think they are, so they are in consonance of what I think or what I like, then this should be good. It's not bad that, oh, I will have a huge interval and I will forget it. Well, that's because it's something super low priority. Therefore, it can wait. And if it's prone to forgetting, that's what you want. Priorities is for that. You want to choose to pinpoint, I want to remember this, I want to forget that. You don't want to avoid forgetting, you want to forget. It's needed. So therefore, priorities are key, and you should know incrementally to master priorities. So therefore, you could have meaningful first intervals that will be in consequence of the recall, of the retention rate, regardless of what's low and what's high. That depends on you. What's high priority for you, what's high priority for me will differ. But we share the same thing. We want to remember better what's high priority and what's low can wait. Yeah, and just to be more explicit, that's my, now I have two collections. But basically, I was a heavy user of the pending queue. As you can see, I have about 250,000 elements in the pending queue. That's why in most of my videos, I was saying that based on the English items, I was having a huge optimum interval, which is true because I was creating my own cards from English from the clauses, making clauses on topics. So I was using the close interval, but I was heavily using the advanced English collection and therefore using the pending queue, therefore using the optimum interval. That's why I had crazy first intervals most of the time. So if you have seen most of my videos on this channel, keep that in mind because if you don't use the pending queue at all, you won't be using that at all. It will be calculated. Good to know, good to see, but when you make a close deletion, it will depend 100% on the priority. Hope this is clear. For me, it's very obvious. I don't know how to simplify that. I think it's easier enough. Let me know if it's hard to understand, and I will do some more videos about priorities. So, nothing more to add today. Hope this has been useful. Learn how to prioritize well. Feel free to ask any question. Keep in mind you can get tutoring from me or just donate to the channel if you get values from my videos, and nothing else to add today. See you next time.